To conclude the micro perspective, let's talk about the key topic for the industry and in the industry, custody. Jean-Michel will show us what he thinks will be important in the future on this topic and what institutional investors in particular should bear in mind. So Jean-Michel, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Nicolo, and good evening or good day, everyone. So I'm Jean-Michel Pailhon, the head of Ledger Enterprise. And actually, Ledger Enterprise is the Ledger business unit dedicated to crypto institutions and professional investors, for which we basically provide digital assets custody technology. And the platform and the product is called Ledger Vault. So let me share my screen. Actually, Fred, can you please share my screen? Can you see my screen? Yes, normally that should be, yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. So first of all, I'm extremely happy to be there with you today with all those great suite of crypto experts. I was religiously listening to the previous session, and I'm looking forward also to continue to interact with some of you after this presentation in the private room, I would say. So today I'll talk about a very strategic topic, as said by Nicolo, which is professionalizing the digital asset custody industry. So question I will try to answer in this coming 10 to 15 minutes. First, it's what does digital asset custody actually means? Some of you might know, but some of you might actually discover this topic today. Then I will try to cover, how you can custody your crypto assets when you are an institutional investors or an exchange, a custodian, a trust, an ETF issuer. Should you build? Should you partner? Should you buy the service? And last but not least, I will also try to cover rapidly what is at stake and basically how much money to invest in that custody technology if you want to build your own stuff or if you have to actually go with the service of a third-party provider. So coming back to the presentation and about myself. So why I am there today? Basically, so before joining Ledger, I actually have been working for 15 years in the traditional financial markets, working for Euronext and NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange. And basically, you know that the business of an exchange is to build and run technology to list and trade traditional assets like stocks, bonds, ETFs, derivatives. So basically, it's an infrastructure play. And basically, I kind of came with this kind of expertise and vision to build and to scale the business for enterprise of Ledger. We are now in January 2021, and it's a very exciting time for everybody in the digital assets industry. More and more institutional investors are actually investing into crypto assets. And even publicly traded companies now hold crypto assets and mostly Bitcoin. Historically, you know that Bitcoin demand has been more driven by retail demand than institutional demand. Roughly speaking, it's estimated that 80% of demand was retail and 20% was institutional. But as you can see on the left hand of the slide, more and more institutions are coming, and there's a forecast that actually this 80 to 20% will actually come to 50-50 in the next 3 to 4 years. And obviously, the demand for institutional investors will actually arrive at the same level as the retail demand. This is great news. And actually, we've seen that in the past few months, 6 months, let's say, more and more institutional demands with PayPal, and we've seen a lot of investment and a lot of news regarding Grayscale and MicroStrategy, obviously CoinShares that launched recently, an ETP, etc., etc. So basically, that's great news for the industry. But this news also brings new challenge to the industry. So how can we globally help those type of new investors to actually buy crypto, but also how to secure this type of new assets? Which then leads me to the concept of digital assets or cryptocurrency custody. So when you actually invest in crypto assets, what you really own that is paramount to protect is what we call the private keys. Private keys to make things simple, it's like a super password that basically enables you to access and transact your tokens. If you lose your private keys or if they get stolen, nothing can be done to retrieve them. It's done for once and for all. So basically, the custody of digital assets consists in the safe guardianship of private keys. It's how you store and protect the access to the private keys. An important thing to notice also on that specific topic, Bitcoin and other digital assets are totally new assets and new way of actually storing the value or transacting, etc. So it basically means that you, as an investor, you cannot use the existing custody infrastructure that exists and that protect traditional financial assets like stocks or bonds. Basically, you cannot replicate those existing architecture with crypto assets. And therefore, if you are a custodian, an exchange, or an institution in crypto assets, and you're active in that sector, and basically you have three options to custody your Bitcoin or your client's Bitcoin. You can use custody technology that is provided by the tech and security vendors, just like Ledger Vault. So this is on the right. You can then choose to use a regulated custodian that is under the scope of a specific regulator. It can be a US one, it can be a UK one, it can be an Asian one, and that's what you basically have on the left. And for example, you've got Comenu that is on the left. That is a Jersey-based regulated custodian that is actually using a Ledger Vault technology, and that we know quite well. And last, the third option is basically you build your own custody infrastructure, which is, as you can see, a bit of a challenge. So, because building a crypto custody actually takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort. To start with, there's obviously the upfront investment, everything related to servers, HSM, building the secure connectivity, hiring the operators, developers, all those things. So basically building the infrastructure from scratch is very costly. I could say that many millions are required just to build a simple crypto custody business. But then once you build it, you need to manage and you need to update properly the access to the crypto assets and token available, because they are on the public blockchain and they are not fixed. They are changing on a regular basis. Regularly, you've got the protocols that are actually modified by the core developers, and you need to actually modify also the technology that is connected to those blockchains. And therefore, it means millions of dollars in operating expense per year just to integrate new coins or new protocol or managing nodes, enabling redundancy and stability of the platform. And last but not least, if some players, for instance, want to go for the on-premises solution, it's even more complicated and costly. And actually, that's one of the reasons why at Ledger we decided to build the enterprise solution as a software, hardware, but on the cloud-based solution. So that's a SaaS solution that we provide our client with. So to summarize on that, I would say that we are probably talking about $2 to $50 million US dollars to build, and probably $1 to $10 million per year to maintain a professional enterprise-grade custody solution to secure and interact with digital assets for institutions. So that's quite a big amount. And actually, even though it seems like a big amount of money, well, the digital assets industry is still investing very few dollars in the overall custody technology. So again, coming from that capital markets industry myself, and you can see that from this research from a renowned consulting firm in the capital markets technology, that broadly speaking, every year in capital markets, almost 150 billion US dollars are spent on IT. That's a massive amount. And that's just for the past year, the year 19. And among that, you have roughly 1/3, so 50 billion of dollars that are spent specifically on what we call the post-trade IT, so which basically gathers what we could see as clearing and settlement and custody for crypto assets. And that's the amount of money, so this 150 billion USD, actually is for an industry that represents between 150 to 250 trillion of market cap. So if we believe that the digital asset industry is set to represent 1, 5, 10% or more of the global capital markets in market cap in the next 5 years, then we can probably infer that the key players in that industry will have to invest heavily in the digital asset custody technology, which is actually at the center of everything investors are doing regarding crypto. To wrap it up now, and before jumping maybe in some questions, I just wanted to make a couple of conclusions on what we've discussed earlier today. Well, first, good news is digital assets are getting more and more interest from professional investors and financial institutions. The past few months, I've seen that, and I suspect that it will continue to be that. I don't see any board, any executive committee in the financial sector right now not discussing that topic. And then, to address the needs and the standard of these new kind of players and crypto institutions like exchanges and custodian, to actually enter this market professionally, they will have to invest heavily in custody technology and security, generally speaking. Right now, we at Ledger, we are already providing, among other, crypto native tech vendors, we are providing with this custody technology to actually enable those players to build and maintain their enterprise-grade technology solutions for the custody of digital assets. And if I take a bit of distance and I just look at that at a global scale and not only my own company's topic, but as a group and as a sector, I think that if we believe that in the next few years, only 1% of what's invested in capital markets technology is spent into digital asset technology, well, the annual spending could be anything between 500 million up to 1.5 billion a year. And that's probably in the next 2 to 3 years that we'll see that. So to conclude, it shows us basically the amount of investment that I expect to be invested in the next few years to enable this professionalization of the digital asset custody industry. And now I'm open for questions from the participant, Nicolo.
Perfect. Jean-Michel, thank you very much for your presentation. So I would just start with the first question. So to go institutional, wouldn't we not need some large insurance players to ensure custody as well as the hardware solution? So how is it in that sense, right? I mean, I find it a good question. So how is ensuring the custody suppliers, right?
That's an excellent question, and actually, maybe I didn't want to make that too much of an advertisement for what we are doing at Ledger. I know that Ledger is very known for the hardware wallet business, which is for retail investors, I would say, and the technology we built for the custodian for institution is a bit slightly different because yes, it's based out of hardware, what we call hardware security models, so super secure servers. But it's a bit different. But going back to your point, yes, there is a big insurance topic in that field, and actually, there's most of the regulated custodian have specific insurance, and for instance, Cominu that we partner with on the tech side of their offering of custodian for digital assets, they have a specific insurance, and even ourselves, Ledger Vault, as a tech provider, we also have a 150 million USD insurance, so that in case something happened on the technology itself, there's a layer of insurance that can trigger and that can be there to protect the users of the platform. But yes, insurance is a key topic for sure.
So, but still to come back to that question, so is that in the future a topic that custodians will be insured by companies and their hardware solutions, or is it that you offer a service that, how do you say, includes that all? So I think this question goes in the direction, what happens if a custodian, fails?
Well, so there's two layers of insurance, I would say. So there's one layer that relates to the technology for sure, and obviously that is secure and that cannot be hacked or whatsoever. But that's like at the level of the responsibility of the tech vendors, I would say. And there's an insurance for that, and we are building that, and we worked with a very famous insurance company to propose that. And now on the service layer, so more at the custodian themselves, say yes, they are proposing this kind of insurance, and obviously there's a terms and reference that enables the user, in case something happen at the custodian, that the insurance is triggered. So I don't know if I understood correctly, or maybe I should look into that more in details.
No, it's good, Jean-Michel. So I think that there are some other questions that are just triggered now. So I just ask you 3 questions that goes into one block. What happens if a private key of a digital asset is lost? What happens to the ownership of the digital asset, and who will be the owner?
Oh my God. Well, basically, if you lose your private key or if it gets stolen, it's really like if you have your email box being hacked and you lost your password, or someone changed your password. So it's not your mailbox anymore, and it's not your digital asset anymore, basically. And unfortunately, it cannot be taken back. So if I make a mistake in my bank wire tomorrow, I might call my bank and say, okay, I made a mistake. I send 10,000 euro to Nicolo, and can you send me back the money? And you will agree, and everything will be done fine. But if I do that in the crypto space, that's not happening.
Right. I would go to another point. I just made here also some notes, but we have here also a question from a participant. So I made a note like potential is high, as you said, with investments that have to be done also in future to secure. But from my side, and then I will read also the other question, what will be the challenges also? And the question that we have here from participant is, there seems a lot of future forecasting comparing the current financial services institution industry with crypto, which doesn't seem to compare. So is the industry plagued by a startup mentality, over forecasting potential income too early? That's the question here. So that it goes in the sense of, okay, you see a huge potential. Is that not too, seen too positively, or are you also not you, but in general, is there an ignorance of like the challenges lying ahead?
No, I think it's actually a good question. I would say that again, I think it's a question of perspective, right? So right now the global market cap of crypto is like 1 trillion, let's say $1 trillion. Okay, it's a big amount, but it's like still 1/10 of the gold market. It's 1% of the stock market. It's 0.3% of the total assets, capital markets industry, etc. So it's still a very small market. So, but I think that the truth is that indeed we are in the industry because we believe that this market size will increase. And that's basically why I'm there also, and why I decided to join this kind of digital assets world instead of staying in the traditional financial markets, right? But I think that from a perspective, there's a lot of price forecast regarding the price of Bitcoin, and I am not a good forecaster myself in that, so I try to avoid talking about the price of Bitcoin because it's very difficult, if not possible, to assess that. But what I really feel is more the growth of the ecosystem of digital assets as a whole and crypto assets as a whole. Okay. And that's really what I'm betting. And actually, I'm not the only one betting on that. I think that going from 1 to 3 trillion in the next 3-4 years, that's manageable, I would say. That's not totally crazy, right? If tomorrow I say, okay, it's a 500 trillion, maybe that's more ambitious.
Okay, perfect. So Jean-Michel, we would have 3 or 4 more questions, but I would suggest we have now, I just got informed, a super interesting discussion in our networking room with the DeFi experts. They're just like discussing with each other, but still, I would thank you very much for your speech and also for your insights. Jean-Michel would also be in the networking room afterwards. So Jean-Michel, I would just suggest that you join the room. Maybe you can also join the discussion with the DeFi experts, because custody is needed everywhere. So thank you for this again. And I'm sure we're going to have to discuss this topic also in the next year. So have a nice evening, and speak to you soon. Thank you very much.